I'm standing on the left side of the habitat, giving everyone a big wave so you can see where my voice is coming from. If you are at the habitat right now, then you'll know that it is time for our spotlight on penguins. And for those of you that weren't here during my pre-show, I'll just let you know what to expect during this show. I'm not going to be joined by any marine mammal trainers. It's just going to be me talking about these amazing birds and their unique adaptations for life in the ocean. And they're essentially free to do whatever it is they choose. So this should go for about 8 minutes. And during that time, they may hop in the water, go for a little swim. They may walk around in the habitat, or they may do exactly what they're doing right now. Pretty exciting stuff, but don't hold your breath expecting much to happen. You never really know what they're going to decide to do. They are pretty amazing birds, and I'd like to start this program off by asking a question to all of you. Where in the world are these penguins from?
South Africa.
From South Africa, absolutely correct. And what's really interesting about penguins in general is there are 18 species all around the world, and none of them are in the northern hemisphere. The furthest one, the one that is furthest north, I should say, is in the Galapagos. We have the Galapagos penguins, but all the others we find in the southern hemisphere. So there are penguins in Australia, in New Zealand, in South America, and Antarctica, as some are more famously known, and of course these beautiful African penguins. We're really lucky here at the Vancouver Aquarium to have these African penguins. As you can see, we have 7, and I see one coming closer to me. This is Salt Spring. You can see with the orange colors on their band, and that is in fact one of the ways that we can tell them apart. They all have different colors on their wings, and so I know that orange is Salt Spring, blue is Tofino, white is Hope, etc., etc. You may notice that there's a pattern. They're all named after different places here in British Columbia. And what's really interesting about them as well is the only other way to tell them apart. Well, does anybody know if they didn't have those bands, how would we tell those penguins apart? I think I've heard someone say it. Their chest, yeah, absolutely. If you look on their stomach, you notice they have black dots all on their chest and their belly, and that is like a human fingerprint. Each is unique to each individual penguin, so that is how you can tell them apart. But to make it a little bit easier for us when we are feeding them, we do have those bands, and that's how we can more easily tell them apart. Now, penguins have some really amazing adaptations for life out in the ocean, and one of the first ones I'd like to talk about is, well, what you see on their body. What do you see all over their body? Instead of hair, what do they have? Feathers, absolutely. And so penguin feathers are actually quite special because their feathers are about 4 times as dense as any other bird. And attached to each feather, they have a muscle that holds it really close and tight to their body. So when they're swimming in the water never actually touches their skin. And that's one of the ways that they can keep warm. But they will also groom and preen their feathers as well. And while they are doing that, sometimes you may notice that they take their beak right to the base of their tail. And that's because they have a gland there that secretes this oil that they can put all over their feathers to keep them nice and warm, and creates another barrier from preventing that water from ever touching their skin. So they can keep nice and warm. However, in South Africa, the waters there are only a couple degrees warmer than they are here in Vancouver. So they are very well adapted to the waters here. And one of the great reasons why we can have them here at the Vancouver Aquarium. Another adaptation that they have is, well, when you do see them swimming, they are actually quite fast. They look like little torpedoes swimming around in the water, and they cannot fly, so swimming is really important for them. Oh, are they going for a little walk? Hello. Well, as you can see them walking around, they do often go swimming, and when they swim around, they can reach up to 20 kilometers per hour, or 13 miles per hour, and they can be out at sea for a few days at a time. They can travel up to distances of 70 kilometers. That would be like going around the Stanley Park seawall 8 times, or doing a marathon and a half. So they are quite comfortable swimming out at sea, and that is one of the ways that they can cool off as well. If you look above their eye, where it meets their beak, you'll notice that they have this fleshy area that's kind of pink, and when they get really, really hot, it will become like a really bright red or bright pink, and that's how you know they're getting quite warm. So they might hop into the water or stand in the shade so they can cool off. But the last adaptation that they have is really quite amazing, is one that's very important to them, and that's how they catch their food. Now, I just want to start this by asking all of you a question. By a show of hands, how many of you have ever been fishing before? Alright, so keep your hands up if you have been fishing. When you went fishing, how many of you used a hook and a line? Alright, so keep your hands up. For those of you that use a hook and a line, how many of you tried to catch the fish with your bare hands? And you all keep your hands up. So if you have tried to catch a fish with your bare hands, how many of you tried to catch a fish with your mouth? Were you successful? Oh, I see your hand was up. No. So yeah, it's kind of a silly question to be asking, but the reason why I do that is to point out how they can catch their fish, because they use their mouth, their beak, to be able to catch their prey, which is really quite amazing adaptation. If you look at their beak, you'll notice it has a little bit of a hook on top, so that way when they grab onto their seafood, they can hold onto it and it doesn't swim away. Also, if you ever see them open their mouth and you get a chance to see their tongue, you'll notice that they have fleshy spikes that go in the opposite direction. So when they swallow their prey, they don't chew, they swallow it whole, and those spikes will help guide it all the way down into their belly so that it doesn't go in the opposite direction, which is really quite amazing. And they eat a variety of seafood. They eat, we think about 25 different species like herring and mackerel and squid and crustaceans. And is that it? Do you want to go into the waters? Does that sound good, all that seafood? Well, as we're waiting, we'll see what they do. They're really good at catching their seafood in the water, but that's also led to a little bit of an issue, because as you notice, they eat a lot of the same seafood that humans like to eat, and that's actually led to their decline. About 95%. There we go. So you can see them swimming like torpedoes. And about 95% of the African penguin population has declined since the 1900s. That means there's only 5% of these amazing birds left. And that's kind of scary, and a lot of that has to do with overfishing in their areas. But there's a lot that we can do, because they are amazing birds with unique adaptations. And I'm wondering, anyone here like to eat seafood? Sure. Yeah, and I like to eat seafood as well, and I want you to keep eating seafood. But when you are, I want you to make the right choices. Has anybody here ever seen this symbol before? We have, excellent. Well, this is for our Oceanwise symbol. It's a program we started here at the Vancouver Aquarium a few years ago. And anytime you see this symbol at a restaurant, you'll know that that fish or seafood that's associated with it is a sustainable choice that we recommend that you eat. We have done all the research for you to see what fisheries are sustainable or not, and we even have a free Oceanwise app that you can download on your smartphone. So if you're going to a grocery store and you want to buy some seafood, but you're not really sure what's a sustainable choice, well, we can tell you on that app. So just look out for this sign, because every time you see this and every time you choose a sustainable option, you're not only helping these beautiful African penguins, but you're helping all the other animals that live out in the ocean and need those fish to survive as well. So if anyone has any questions about Oceanwise or about these African penguins, come on over and chat with me. Again, my name's Amanda, and I want to thank you all so much for listening to my talk today, and you can enjoy them swimming in the water. That's a very nice thing. So thank you so much again, everyone. I hope you have a great day here at the Vancouver Aquarium. For those of you that might be looking for another program to go to, I can tell you at 4:45 we have our final dolphin show of the day, which will be happening on the Wild Coast to my left or your right. So you can head over there in about 20 minutes and see those dolphins. Thanks again, everyone. Have a great day.
You're all swimming.
Pool party.